and say your affirmations. Go. Wake up every day and say your affirmations. Go. Wake up every day and say your affirmations. Go. Wake up every day and say your affirmations. Go. Happiness and kindness is a choice. Wake up.
We're doing this all last minute. No, we're not doing that, yo. All right, we just go.
All right.
Oh, all right. Oh, all right. We'll try that one. We're just gonna have a conversation. Welcome, loved ones. Just give it a few moments.
Peace.
You just said you want me to talk.
Yeah, you asked me what's on the notes.
Just. Are we up on the page, y'all?
Let me see. Well, let's say hello and welcome to our new family and with the iHeartRadio. So glad to be among that family and be bringing what we have to all of you, as well, of course, our YouTube family as well as our Facebook family. I want to make sure that we acknowledge all of you and just thank all of you for always tuning in and sticking with us. Also, we know that today's Super Bowl, and we decided to do this anyway. Mm-hmm. Not that we feel like we can compete with the Super Bowl, but we're here because we have to continue to be here and show up consistently for you.
Consistency.
So this podcast and also this the video will always be there for replay at your leisure. But please, we are not holding back on the information. These are, these, you don't want to miss this one. You don't want to miss the one from last week, the one next week, or any, because we still coming with the information. All right. Can I get an amen on that?
Whoop, whoop.
So, yeah.
All right, tribe. Let's go ahead and get chopped into this. Hello, everyone. Greetings. This is John Skywalker, the Sly Talker, lyricist, spoken word artist, martial artist, personal trainer, lover of life, student of psychology, and I am a father who has several hip-hop records streaming on all major platforms. If you like positive conscious hip-hop, go ahead and check out John Skywalker. John Skywalker. Tidal, Amazon Music, John Skywalker. Look him up. All right, and this is things that people don't want to talk about, brought to you by God Level, who is not with us today. She's handling God Level business. She will return, however. All right, and today, let me go ahead and open the mic up to our dear Saba here.
What's going on? This is Sabah Diamin, teacher, entrepreneur, father, owner, and founder of the Abode of Osar Institute of Personal Excellence, where I help you and anybody else to give you the education and the knowledge and the steps towards self-mastery. Just be looking forward to our courses that are coming up, the first of which is going to be free. So you don't want to miss that. All right, so come with that. And as always, I am always here to serve. Ashe.
Mm-hmm. And King Newborn, would you like to introduce yourself?
Peace. It's King Newborn. You can follow me on all social media platforms at Newborn Everything. And as always, I am of service.
Excellent. Now, before we hop in today's show, we have a business that we're going to boost today. Answer Athletics, right here is the owner, Latoya Ramirez. Latoya, go ahead and tell them a little bit about yourself. How old are you? Where are you from? Occupation, all that.
I'm Toya. I'm from Michigan. I'm a mother of two, an entrepreneur, and a huge fitness enthusiast.
Fitness enthusiast. How long have you been into fitness?
Off and on for about 15 years now.
Okay. So, as previously stated, you have a fitness clothing line,
Mhm.
Answer Athletics. What does that stand for? Or is it an acronym? Is it like,
It's my kids' initials.
mm,
ANSI, Anna, Nicole, Solomon, Ivan, Ramirez.
okay, okay, all right. How do we come to this point? How do we get into making fitness clothes?
I was just inspired with my fitness journey. I've seen all of these websites like Gymshark and Alphalete with these outrageous prices, and I wanted to kind of work off of them with a more affordable price.
Mm. All right. So you're a fitness enthusiast, single mom, and you're into fitness clothing apparel, I guess. I mean,
Mhm.
why fitness clothing? I mean,
I
like,
mean, when you look good and you feel good and you perform better, I film all of my workout content and I wanted to look good while I was doing it.
mhm. All right. So, I mean, here I am looking at your fitness apparel. Looks great. Uh,
Mhm.
what about Gymshark, Alpha Lead? I mean, why not just wear them?
Because they're really expensive.
I mean, how
They over
expensive?
outrageously expensive. A pair of leggings from Alphalete is $72. I sell mine for 36. Gymshark, they sell their
Whoa, whoa,
leggings
whoa, whoa! Say that again for the audience.
$36. So it's half the price of what they're asking for the same material.
Ow!
Oh, so it still
Ow!
solves the
Talk.
same issues, and for sweating, moving sweat away from the body and all that.
Ooh.
Mm,
All right, all right, all right. Now, you said the leggings are 36.
yes,
I saw some shirts up here. How much are the
they're
shirts?
$20.
Okay, okay. These are $20. All right. What about the shorts?
Those are $32 compared to Alphalete, which they charge their shorts for $52 and up.
Mm, okay.
It's the same exact material. It's just a different logo.
All right. So, how did you arrive to, like, how did you figure all this out? Like, how did you know which vendors to find?
Didn't. I had to do a lot of research to find the exact vendor, and I had to work with many of them just to get them to kind of work with me with different colors and different prices.
All right. So, let me kind of summarize this whole process. Single mom, loves to work out, says, dang, I can't really. I mean, could you afford Alpha Elite and all them?
I could with Afterpay, but I couldn't just come out $72 for each pair of leggings.
All right, tell them what Afterpay is. I don't know what Afterpay is.
Afterpay, it's kind of like a payment plan you can use at checkout.
Um,
It's monthly, every 2 weeks, or once a week, depending on which option you choose.
Wow. Okay. So this is
I
just
use
like a
it.
general payment system. You can apply this to
Kind of
anything.
like a layaway,
Oh,
a
okay,
version
okay.
of
So it's like
layaway.
I do
so.
mine in 4 payments, so I love Afterpay.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay, okay. So
Mhm.
you're plugged in. Okay, okay.
Hmm.
So these leggings, this fitness clothing is so expensive that you have certain people that's like, man, I want these, but I like to be on a payment plan. So you remove the necessity for that, right? So single mom, you went out there and said, I want to undercut these prices. I want to figure out how they do it. You go out there, you research them, you find the vendors, you talk to them, you strike a deal with them, and then like what about the logo and
They actually put the logo on for me, and I communicate with my vendors a lot. We're actually kind of like friends in a sense.
okay. So you're basically making this for what group of women? Like, is this for the single moms? I mean, who is this
I
for?
cater to all women, but the women that usually gravitate towards me are single moms.
Mm,
But they're made for all women.
mm. Okay, okay, all right. Any other closing comments? Like, how can they buy your product?
You can order online at answerathletics.com.
Ah, okay. How can they reach you?
My email is actually on the website, or you can go straight to my Instagram at Answer Athletics, or my fitness Instagram, fit underscore Toya D Ramirez.
Okay. You got any specials, any deals?
So right now, there's a special. If you order $100 and over, is free shipping. And I'm actually running a Valentine's Day special for until the 14th for free shipping on all items right now.
Ooh. Okay. So fellas might not get it on time, but
But they can still order it though.
okay. So all right, fellas, you can have like a I guess a backup. So all right, boom, get it a quick joint for Valentine's Day and say, oh, I got something else. It'll be like Valentine's week. So all right, you order today. It's Sunday. You order today. Oh, you guys probably won't see this until Monday. So that's what, the 13th. All right, boom, you order. It'll be there by the end of the week. So, all right, you got us some flowers, chocolates, took out to the dinner, busted down real quick. And then at the end of the week, hey,
hmm
got you this to support you looking good in the gym because you like to look good in the gym.
hmm And she can stop paying $72 for leggings.
Oh, so you saved her money on. Ooh, okay. Oh, well, actually,
And
we're saving.
yourself.
Yeah, you're saving
Yeah.
yourself some money. All right, fellas. All right, so hey, sounds like a win for you too. You can save some money. All right. Anything else you want to highlight? You want to?
No,
No.
no, that's it.
I want to ask, so with your vendors, once an order comes through, it goes to the vendor, and then the vendor automatically knows to imprint your logo on the set item and then ship it out from there.
No, I ordered them in bulk and I shipped them out from home.
Okay, gotcha.
It has a personal touch to it. Okay.
Yeah. So you really put your heart on your sleeve, basically.
Yes, I try to.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful.
All right. So yeah, you're looking at the market, you're studying, you're like, these are the trending clothes that are out there, and your brand seeks to identify the fitness clothing that's trending at the time, and you want to undercut those prices and make it affordable for everybody.
Yeah, make it more affordable,
Mm,
more
affordable.
reasonable.
More reason. Ooh,
Not just stealing from
undercutting the
people.
market. All right, y'all. She's undercutting the market for y'all. Okay, cool. All right, y'all got any more questions out there?
Mm, think I'm good. I would like to say that those look like some very high quality apparel, and fitness. I'm also a fitness enthusiast. Been in the industry for 30 years as a trainer, an athletic trainer, nutritionist, and so forth. One thing is really have to happen with apparel is that it have to be you have to have high performance. It's got to be able to move with the athlete or the enthusiast, right? And for stretching, but also take care of some of the early fitness apparel was causing people to chafe. They were because they were sweating, and then the fabric started rubbing against them and things like that. So that's some of the advances. So with all these, we see like Adidas have some very highly advanced apparel, but you're going to pay for that. You're talking about hundreds of dollars, if not thousands, for that suit that can actually read your biofeedback and all this other kind of stuff. I don't think it's really that necessary unless you're like a high performing athlete and you want to track your performance level. They have suits. That's what I call them, suits rather than fitness apparel. Those are suits that actually do that. But something on this level just for the everyday average gym goer or above average, we'll say the enthusiast. So these how would you rate the quality of performance of this apparel? Can it keep up with the enthusiasts, or is it something they feel like they would have to eventually feel like it's working against them?
Well, I wear them all the time, and they're really good. They're squat proof. You can sprint, jog, move around, stretch. And it's really good stretchy material.
Okay. So even when you sweat in it, it don't feel like it's weighing you down.
No,
Okay.
no,
Are they
not at
quick
all.
dry, or how is it quick dry? Like if you sweat in it, does the sweat dry pretty quick, or do you got to deal
Yeah,
with it for a while?
it does.
Okay. Excellent. All right. And airflow. That was another issue. keeps you cool. In other words, allows enough air to pass through to keep your body cool, or enough heat from your body to escape as well.
Cool.
Okay, I'm cool. That was it.
Okay. We're just gonna close the stream real quick just to make our adjustments. Saba, you can go ahead and take the lead on today's topic: the rise and fall of Black excellence.
All right. So first of all, again, just welcome to everybody. And yeah, so we're going to talk about the rise and fall of Black excellence. Being that this is still Black History Month, and we know along with that, this is part of the impedance to Black excellence. There's always some sort of distraction or some kind of block thrown, towards Black excellence. So during Black History Month, we got some very prominent stuff happening that actually detracts from us being able to talk about it. Because these days, what we have to talk about is going beyond just slavery, but talk about some other innovations of Black history, some other aspects of Black history, and one of the things when we talk about Black excellence, like things that we have excelled in, as a Black community, not just here in America, but especially in ancient times. And if we go back to some of these innovations, we'd find that a lot of what we do today, when I say a lot, I mean more than 95% of what we do today is an innovation, is Black innovation. More than 95%. And I'm really being nice by saying 95%. Really being nice.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, sir. Go ahead. It's kind of early, but
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to.
No,
Yeah. So, actually, it's two questions. The first one is, do you look at why did you pick Black excellence? And then, secondly, do you look at Black excellence in the past as overall history or just Black history?
Okay, good question. So first of all, the reason why I picked Black excellence, aside from the fact that it's being that it's Black History Month, if we look at Blacks today, we're talking about Black people of not just of African descent, but I'm talking about heavily melanated people. Looking about every country, they're the people that seem to be at the lowest rung of the socioeconomic ladder, as if we have nothing to do with excellence. And there's been a name associated with us. They call us savages and uncivil and so forth. And we of course occupy. We make up the highest population among the prison population. And what people don't understand, but they're just those are just effects of a racist system, and this is done like all over. So this is why I want to highlight Black excellence, and show that things that Blacks have excelled in, and realizing that much of what we do, the foundation of civilization today, is because of Black excellence. So they sit on Black excellence. What I think is extremely important for us to understand, that is people who look like us, people who we descend from, or that are responsible for some of the greatest innovations on the planet since the beginning of beginning of mankind. It is and it's not to say, it's not trying to pinpoint superiority, but it is to pull ourselves up from the muck that's been placed on us by a system of racism, and we're talking about a global system of racism. So, so that's the reason why I pick excellence. And you're saying that, am I saying Black excellence only as historically? Is that what you're saying?
Oh, I was asking, do you look at Black history as an overall history, or do you look at it just as this is a certain period of time where certain things did decide to come about, and we're only going to talk about those particular things? Because like you just said, throughout I mean, throughout the world, a lot of things spawn, if not still stand on the back of Black excellence.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, we're gonna look at that through overall, not just in a certain period of time, of course. But I
Okay.
like to start from the beginning.
Gotcha.
I like to start from the beginning though, because what that does, that establishes as we move forward, that the only reason why when they put this word uncivil mostly on us as blacks, we're gonna see who the founders of civilization is. You know, they
Watch
just
out.
happen to be. So we brought civilization to the world. You know, way back in ancient Sumer, between the Euphrates and Tigris rivers, what they call Mesopotamia. Even from way back then, and we talking about even before the Sumerians even showed up, there was a people there that were black people, and even Sumerians called themselves the black-headed people. Okay, they identified themselves as the black-headed people, and yes, that predates Kemet. But what I want to point out here is that a lot of things, Kemet was like the child of all of the nations in the Nile Valley civilization. Kemet was the last great civilization of the Nile Valley region. So after that, and then after the Greeks, Romans, and Persians did their thing on it, then that whole area started to go downhill. All right, so. So when we look at some of the things that we see at the beginning at that time, we see writing. Writing was actually fashioned and invented by the blacks of ancient Sumer, and in the form of the cuneiform text. Okay, the cuneiform text was the first and earliest writing system. All right, so that shows a form of intelligence. And even the thing about ancient Sumer is that they didn't write down a whole bunch of a lot of their achievements in that way. Maybe they couldn't see that would be important at this time, So they just so a lot of what we know about it is based on artifacts that was dug up at that time, from that time, and we could see the pottery, we can see art, we can see all kind of things going on. Actually, the first versions of the wheel was found from that time as well. So that's where we saw the invention of the wheel. And let me see, here we go. And so then moving on through, Kush, we see the first establishment of like policing order. We see the political systems going into Kemet. Then we see mathematics. We see the invention of paper in the form of papyrus. Taking it again from the plant, like what's behind me here. These are papyrus plants, and how they were used instead of the trees and things that we use today, cutting down many forests and things like that just to get some paper. But they just use a plant, and they cut off the buds of the plant like this, and that's where the papyrus came from. So that plant always grew back, and it didn't mess up the ecosystem just by using it either. But also, as we see today, yes, after tens of thousands of years, the papyrus, we got some fragments that were there, but it didn't last for an eternity. But not like the writing system of ancient Kemet. The second oldest writing system is what many would call the hieroglyphs, but we call the Medu Neter. Okay, they were, but some even believe that they were a descendant of the cuneiform text, and some believe that the cuneiform text was inspired by the Anunnaki, who really ain't even a part of this world, right? So, which was an ancient civilization believed to have come down and settled there in Mesopotamia, and was responsible for the springing up of the first civilization. That they saw. This it just seemed like it was overnight. But also in Kemet, we also see the first signs of agriculture. Okay, and we see all the tools like hoes and scythes and things like that actually used for gardening, for cutting down their harvest and things like that. So we see a lot of these, and these are the things that we still use right today. In fact, we see an expounding upon these things. We've seen how we can do things a little bit better, but even as we get into recent history, we'll see that most of those innovations also were Black innovations. So what else do we see? We see let me see. Look at my notes here. Oh, here we go. So we see ink, black ink, and eventually red ink. These things were also created, innovated right there in the Black lands in Kim. The ox-drawn plow, so the plow, also was something else that was done. And remember, as you can see, that a lot of these innovations, or these, they were figuring out how to make life a little bit more convenient as far as providing for themselves what they needed. So they're like, well, okay, so if we're going to do agriculture, then we're going to need a way to cultivate, a way to cut these things down. So they were very busy trying to figure out how to master life itself, how to get along in this physical world. We see, in fact, the scythe, or the sickle is what they call it, which is like a hook that has a blade. That thing that you see the Grim Reaper with? That. Okay? But what we see, that's also the symbol for Ma'at.
Children of the Corn.
That's the symbol for universal law. It's a symbol for all of that, making things right, evening out, bringing equality, bringing back balance and equality. So that's a symbol for that in the Meta Nature. We see irrigation. Of course, they had to learn how to irrigate the lands. How did they do that? Drawing from the river into a desert area, coming from the Nile and so forth. They had to irrigate the fields and everything. That on top of the Nile itself being inundating itself to flood the fields and everything for nourishment. And also the calendar. Even today's Greco-Roman calendar is an offshoot of the original solar Dendera calendar that we had back then, and which boasted really 360 days with 5 extra days, and every month was an exact 30-day month. The weeks were 10-day weeks. Back then, it was 10-day weeks. Every 10 days, it starts over. So you got 3 10-day weeks that goes on in a month's time. And that was throughout every month. Okay? Every month. Okay? And we ended up, I believe with, was it 13? Well, that's what made it the 13th month, is because of those extra 5 days. Which also considered the just a slight offset of the what you call the heliacal rising of Sapdet, or the star Sirius, which is which also brings about the spring equinox and so forth, which I'm going to show y'all. I want to show y'all some pictures of some of that when we get to the art part of it, and how they tracked everything. So we look at the pyramids and things like that as just something that they decided to build, and nobody really can even figure out what they were actually used for. They were not tombs. no bodies has ever been found in pyramids. So they were not tombs. They had makeshift tombs, but no bodies have ever been found inside a pyramid. So then what were they? It's so much more to pyramids, but more so their geometric construct. How they were sitting, what the dimensions, because they found that the golden ratio is very prevalent in the building of the pyramids. And also it tracked the solar cycle. So anyway, I want to get into that more when we get into because I want to be able to show y'all what I'm talking about. Okay. Also, there was the invention of clocks. And clocks, of course, was very important of tracking time, and the way they did it with water. They were very, very precise and adamant about finding something that was consistent to measure things on. Okay, measure things on. They had to find something that was consistent, and something that wasn't moving and things like that. So this was very important to them. The invention or the formulation of mathematics. Every high form of mathematics we know today comes from Kemet. All of it does. Pythagoras didn't come up with nothing. Okay, he went to Kemet and learned those things, and he was awarded that status by Alexander the Greek. But that was after they had pillaged the libraries there in Kemet. So when we look at how important mathematics was our way of measuring the unfoldment of creation itself. Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Quick question. So, was the first university in Africa?
Well, it was in Kemet. That was the first university, was in Kemet. And today we still don't have a university that boasts that high of educational tools. We still don't.
That's crazy.
You see? And it was that organized. And the higher the information, the bigger the door in the temple that you walk through. So you actually had to initiate into that other higher learning. So it was it fed directly into our understanding of self. And those high sciences, which included everything, by the way. It included everything. Okay. So more importantly, what I love about this is that it was we saw the first inventions of surgical tools. Okay. So when we go to the Edwin Papyrus, we see records of all kind of different surgeries and things like that, having stitches. The first time people were given stitches and certain operations. Go to the Ebers Papyrus, and we see all kind of things like dealing with other medical issues like heart attacks and high blood pressure, all kind of stuff. Where they found diseases and things like that. And they were able to deal with it back then. So what I don't understand when people say that we lived shorter lives back then because we didn't have pharmaceuticals. That's not true. That's absolutely not true.
Yeah, that's a lie.
We saw kings and people that lived, still even back then, their time was probably in their 40s or 50s or what have you, but they were not dying like of old age and things like that, But remember that between then and now, we have evolved a lot. We've evolved to live a little bit longer and for our bodies to be more resilient. That's what happens as centuries go by and millennia goes by. All right. What else we see? We see wigs. So a lot of our black sisters wearing these wigs. Look, all I can say, y'all just right in line. y'all right in line with with your ancestors. Not just the sisters, but also the guys wore wigs back then as well. They were so they really called them headdresses.
But wasn't that because of certain ceremonies that they
Uh,
wore these wigs?
not always,
Oh, okay.
but definitely in ceremonies.
Okay.
Definitely in ceremonies, because this was also cosmetic. They had cosmetic makeup. So aesthetics and beauty was a big thing. So they actually saw, because remember how they saw themselves as representations of the Most High. So they also want to adorn their bodies in the most beautiful way as well.
Multiple different ways of expressions.
Absolutely. Makeup in times of war, in times of the games, in times of ritual as well, spiritual ritual. Makeup was actually worn at those times, and wigs or headdresses were worn as symbols of, like they have one headdress which was strictly for war, one was for negotiation, one was for just sitting on the throne. It all depends on what the Nasut Bati was doing at that time would determine what headdress he was wearing. When it came time for passing judgment on somebody, that's why we see that's where, like George Washington, you see that wig that he was wearing, he got that from ancient Egypt. All that came from ancient Egypt. You see? So none of those things, they were literally they were without this form of civilization at that time, which is why they rejected the information when their so-called scholars who had just came from reading or learning in the Kemetic libraries, when they went back to Greece, then they were exiled because the information, when they said, well, we don't do this, this ain't us, we don't listen to that blasphemy, and they coming back trying to say, y'all guys, this is what life is. Look, this is what we learn. This is really math. This is this, and this is what we learn. Well, we don't talk all that crap. Get on out of here. In fact, exile him, execute him, make sure he don't come back, and blah blah. Put him in prison. This is how they treated those so-called Greek philosophers, because the nation of Greece at that time rejected the information. So even at that time, they were not civil. They were not civil people. So another thing, what really, really got me was the invention of the first toothpaste. Well, I mean, we didn't want to wait too long for toothpaste, though, did we? We didn't want to wait too long for it. So we had things like just the way they would use like ground up ox hooves, along with some herbs and some other stuff for abrasive to clean your teeth with, and then later on they added stuff like mint and stuff like that for freshening the breath and things like that. So that was all done way back then. You see, way back then. And as I said, I'm saying this to establish the fact this is stuff we still use right today. Stuff that we still use, and we really can't see ourselves living without it. You see?
Didn't they also use like mint twigs?
Mint twigs?
Yeah.
Oh well, I'm sure they did. Because they had it. Because they used that along with some other flowers and things like that in perfumes, and this is where you find your first perfumes also, and oils and stuff like that being made. Very, very rich and very expensive at the time. For the time, very expensive perfumes and colognes.
So wait a minute. Perfume and cologne started where?
Way back in Kemet.
Wow.
Yes. Absolutely.
So it wasn't Tommy Hilfiger, it wasn't Polo,
Nope.
wasn't Christian Dior.
Nope.
It started in Kemet.
They
Wow.
are all trying to capitalize on your ancestors' ideas.
Surgery. What about surgery?
That's what I said, sir. We had the first surgical tools and surgery.
Yeah. Imhotep, correct?
No, actually, so Imhotep was one.
Oh,
So
he
you
was
found
just one.
no, it wasn't just him because we see Imhotep's things or advances in the Edwin papyrus, but then so that would be I believe it's the older than the Ebers, papyrus of Ebers. And remember when we hear Ebers and Edwin, those are just the white people who bought them from the museums. So it's their names that go on the papyrus. Okay, so that was not what they were called at that time. Okay, so when we see the name of these papyrus and stuff, these ancient texts, they're just the white people who bought them. They had no association with the originators or the authors of those particular that particular text.
So if that's true, then the hypocritical oath started where?
It wasn't Hippocrates. That's for
Oh,
It was-
really?
It was, Hippocrates was one of the students that went to
Yeah.
Kemet to learn,
Mm-hmm.
and he came away with that. And again,
Man,
was
man,
awarded
man.
that status by Alexander the Greek.
You call him a Greek.
I ain't
Ah,
calling him
yeah,
Greek.
yeah,
Nothing great about him.
Yeah. Alexander
Oh,
Greek. I like
man.
that. That's nice. That's a nice twist.
Do you know of the process before one were to enter the studies or the university? I know it said above the door, know thyself, but I thought it was like maybe a few questions that had to be answered before they entered to show that they was worthy of even being taught.
Well, that all depends because each one of those institutions were institutions of first of all higher knowledge, but the know thyself was the initiation temples. Okay, those were the initiation temples, and of course you have to prove there was a prerequisite for entering into each temple.
Wow.
That's why I say the doors got bigger. Literally, the doors were
Yeah.
bigger. The higher the information, the bigger the doors
information,
were.
yeah. So do you think the doors were bigger because not just the higher the information, but the higher the responsibility level to teach the people? So, because from my understanding, anything that you were taught, you were responsible for passing along.
Well, but it all depends on what level. Because one thing they believed in this is that the ears of wisdom, the lips of wisdom are closed except to the ears of understanding.
Facts. Facts.
It's not. A lot of this information was not offered to the regular citizens of Kim, but we're talking about the priests and people of the priesthood and also the royal people. So you really only dealing with them when it comes to it. Now the priest's job, priesthood was actually a position to where they held the energetic and metaphysical position to holding good energy for the rest of the citizens of the nation. You see what I'm saying? So they were the one. Let's put it like this: how your grandmama say she's always praying for you. See,
Right.
and even when you don't know it, you out here way somewhere else in a whole nother state, but your grandmother's still on her knees praying for you. She's holding this energy over you, and it could be that's the reason why that time that you should have died that you didn't is because of your grandmama's holding that prayer. So this was a position of the priest. The priest is always working energies. They're always in ritual and when they're on duty, and they're going on duty for about 6 months at a time. They wasn't always on duty. They took half the year off. But
It sound like them people they call light bearers.
well, you pretty much that's where light bearer comes from. Comes from this particular priesthood,
Yeah.
So at this point, they shaved their heads. They shaved all the hair off their bodies. They only wore white, and they only ate like foods that didn't take away from their energy. So only at that time they may have been vegan. At that time, because they had to keep their bodies pure. You know, they had to keep their bodies pure. They had to get up and get it. So it was 6 months of duty at a time. You see,
And this concept started in Kemet.
in Kemet.
Wow.
Yep. Exactly.
Wow.
So we're talking about more than 5,000 years ago.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah.
I don't know. People ain't gonna like you saying it started more than.
Well,
But
I mean,
5,000
where they can
years.
see, you know, just in 2016. So before 2016, here, they already knew that the pyramids were. They were trying to give them a date, you know, about 2500 BCE or something like that, right? But then in 2016, they finally found another piece of wood within one of the shafts, carbon dated it, and it date back another 500 years even before what they originally thought. So now we're into 3000 something BC, and they really think it's even older than that. So they don't. So they don't really know because it's hard to carbon date stone. You know, it's hard to carbon date stone, and so,
Limestone at that.
yeah, and most of the limestone is missing.
True.
You know, all
There
that
were,
limestone.
there were many attempts to destroy, and they weren't
Absolutely.
successful.
Absolutely. So when we think about some of those early, you know, innovations and that early excellence and what it had to do, like this, they're setting the foundation for how mankind is to live and things like that, bringing order and civilization to man, not colonization, but just civilization. Okay, so don't think it's the same thing. Colonizing and civilizing are not the same thing. You know, but of course we know they were the masters at mummification, at preserving the body, because they too believed, and so much they believed in this afterlife that you go on to the afterlife, to where one of the punishments, if you were found to break one of the laws or go against, you know, the order or the moral code of the society, one of the punishments was you were going to be given an improper burial. And it was that one that deterred a lot of people from doing wrong. It kept them in line because they knew if you got an improper burial. Oh man, what happened? Sorry about that. Can you guys still hear me?
Yeah, we
Yeah.
can still hear you.
Something happened with my cam here. Hold on. Oh, it always I'm using the wrong browser. I should use this other browser. Anyway, I'll keep going. But so anyway, they understood that the improper burial wouldn't afford them a proper life or continuation on the other side after death, you know, in that eternal life. And so that's why that frightened them even more, because there they believed that you will live for an eternity rather than just a limited amount of time like we do on this side of existence. You see? So so they wanted to make sure, so that's part of the that was part of one of the punishments, is that you will not be able to be given a proper burial. So I just thought that was profound as well. That was profound. Uh-oh. Did we lose King Newborn as well?
Yeah, we did.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
don't know. Something's going around. Maybe I'm spitting out too much information, and we got the enlightenment
Ooh.
police out here. Maybe that's it.
But you know, as we're talking on this, you know, it brought me back to this question, a question that I posed in the group. You know, and I think it's very interesting because just in terms of world history, when you think about the earliest civilizations, and I was on here just verifying just to make sure it's still here. They say ancient Egypt. They don't say Kemet. They don't even
Right.
say Tamaric, right?
Right.
They only say ancient Egypt. it kind of brings a large question, like why do you guys call it ancient Egypt if there's a name already designated for this space?
Right.
And if you look, just again, general timeline, we're talking about civilizations. We're not just talking about these small clans, these small tribes. We know those existed, right? But when we say civilization, that is a very unique term, right?
Mm-hmm.
You can Google type in the earliest or oldest civilizations, or the oldest, or the three oldest civilizations, the six oldest civilizations. Ancient Egypt always
Right.
comes up.
Right. They won't say, because you have to understand is if they say Kemet, they know that they are automatically giving credit to a black civilization. But if
Mm-hmm.
they say Egypt, they understand that Egypt didn't come about until the Greeks
Mm-hmm.
were now in charge of that land, and so that's when it became Egypt. But it became Egyptos,
Mm-hmm.
Egyptos at that point, and then in French it translated to Egypt. You see,
Mm-hmm.
but it was only at that time, and we're only talking about 200 BCE,
Mm-hmm.
as opposed to the thousands of years before that Kemet
Right,
had
right,
existed,
right.
right?
There was thousands of years that preceded
Yeah.
that, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's such a loaded term, right?
Mm-hmm.
When we're learning about this, I'm just recalling me learning about Black history in middle school and high school, even just elementary school. But when we started learning about world history, you're not given a genuine name for this space in time. You're
Exactly.
given ancient Egypt through the eyes of the conqueror, right?
Uh huh.
You're given a perception of this space through the eyes, and it's like it's inside out. It's not even a glow. Like it's kind of an oxymoron. You know, you don't want to give credit as it really was.
Mm-hmm.
So you take the Greek perspective because it's closer to the culture, right? You take the
Mm-hmm.
Greek name, the Greek perspective of Kemet, and you say ancient Egypt as if like it doesn't. It calls for a lot of attention. It's like, what do you mean
Somebody
ancient
chime me
Egypt?
in.
Like,
Okay.
okay,
Mm-hmm.
you good?
Sorry about that. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm good.
Okay.
Sorry about that. Sorry about that.
So when we're talking about ancient Egypt, it's like, all right, do you say ancient Greece? Do you say ancient Aztec or ancient China? Do you say that?
Well, they do say ancient Greece, but they separate that
Oh, do
from,
they?
yeah,
Hmm.
from they say that they separate that, but still, ancient Greece uh, post-dates Egypt, ancient Egypt. When they say
Yeah.
ancient Egypt, they're talking about, they really they should be talking about a time only when it was occupied by
Mm-hmm.
Greece, and then going into the Roman period. So Greece, and then it was Rome, and they were there after the Persians and the Hyksos. So Hyksos, Persians, Greece, then Rome.
Mm-hmm.
And so and at that time, I think the Greeks had occupied it a couple of times, because then the Romans came and took it from them. Then they took it back, and then the Romans got it again.
Mm-hmm.
So then, but that's when they should be taught. So anytime, so I've really been going on this campaign lately, just letting people know that if they are going to say that the ancient Egyptians were not black, let's give them that. But now let's get proper with our timeline. When did it become Egypt? At that time where, although there were some black people still left there at the time that of the Greco-Roman rule, but they were not the one in charge. But before then, it was called Kemet. It wasn't called Greece. It wasn't called Egypt. It wasn't called Egypt at all. So then, if we're gonna give them that, they cannot take credit for the building of the pyramids. They cannot take credit for the building of the Harem Market, which is the Sphinx. They cannot take credit for the development of the writing system that we know as the Meta Netra. They cannot take credit for the art that lines the pyramid walls and coffin texts. They cannot take credit for the writing of the spiritual systems and the sacred and now secret information there within those societies. They cannot take credit for any of that. You see, so let's make proper the timeline. So they try to throw it all under one heading, so that we can lose the line. So they blur the lines between when it was black ruled and when it was white ruled. You see, so that's why I tell people don't talk. So because in the Bible, you know, they're talking about how Egypt had slaves. If Egypt had slaves, it was Egypt. It wasn't Kemet. We found no evidence of slavery in Kemet. So if there was any slaves, then yes, more than likely the savage people who came and invaded are the ones who enslaved others. You know, so check your timeline. Got to check your timeline. And we know it was divided upon the old kingdom, the middle kingdom, the new kingdom, and the late kingdom. Then we had in between those, we had three intermediate periods. So we got all of that to consider. It's a long, long history. We talking about thousands and thousands of years of history at that time, when it was all black at that time. Even pre-dynastic times, that was all black. Okay, so this we know irrefutably. We know this. Okay, so and again, the only reason why I'm highlighting this, not just because it's Black History Month, but because somebody needs to know that they matter. Somebody who look like us, somebody who is black, who feel like that we're just nothing because we've been told by the society that we're nothing and that we're useless and we're only good for entertainment and sports. No. No. Everything that we're doing, everything that we use, and everything that mankind is operating off of is a black innovation. 95%, if I'm being nice about it. Okay, if I'm being nice about it. All right. So this is what we got.
By the way, Saba, what does Kemet mean?
So Kemet literally means black.
Okay.
And you know how I know this? Because I have the hieroglyphic dictionary. And when I look up Kemet in that dictionary, it says black right by it.
Ooh. So I'm pretty sure in order for an archaeologist of some sort who's digging up these, fossils, these artifacts, these relics, these remnants, I mean, there's a compilation here, right? And they can read this, so they know the language at least to some degree, right? So they also could read it and say, or extract from those hieroglyphics that information, right? So they're pretty much well aware that this means black.
Well, see, here's the problem. Here's the problem, though, and that's a good assessment. The problem is that literally the language of the Meta Netra, which people call the hieroglyphs, it was not a spoken language. It was a conceptual language. Just like how they say a picture is worth 1,000 words. Just the same way how we use emojis today. They have no sound within themselves, but they do convey a message. They convey a phrase. They convey some sort of communication. That's the same thing with the Meta Netra. And so what they've done again, and remember that they have assigned phonetic complements to the symbols so that they can better understand it. But what they found was they start reusing a lot of those same symbols for the same sound, or put different sounds on the same symbol, and so that began to confuse them. And so even as I started to learn to read according to the phonetics that they had, the way they transliterated it and then translated it, transliteration is taking it from the symbol to the phonetic sound or phonetic complements of it, right? So, and then taken from that phonetic complement, which we call the Medu, we call from that to, let's say, French. That's a translation. But they had to take it from the symbols to the phonetic complements, and then to their native language. So it went from a transliteration to a translation. Okay, and that translation now they first translated it into French and German. So now even if you want to go to college to learn the Meta Nature, you have to. It's a prerequisite of learning and becoming fluent in French and German. So why are these? Wait a minute, and you know these are white languages, right? French and German, those are white countries and so forth, westernized white countries. So then why is it that we have to learn it? When we learn it through their eyes, we're learning also their perception. And remember, in a bunch of these so-called scholars and Egyptologists who were trying to decipher this, it was a team of them. They were all Christians. Okay, that's number one. They were Christians. They were Catholics. They literally, I have a lot of the text, even in E.A. Wallace Budge's ancient Egyptian, the Egyptian Book of the Dead, and that right there will show you exactly how, just that alone, show you how they were off right from the get-go. They call it the Book of the Dead because they found this literature among the corpses. Okay, they found this within the graves or tombs of these corpses, so they called it the Book of the Dead. That's how simple-minded they were. But when we go back and look at it, it means it is literally called the Pert Imheru, which is coming forth by day.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it's called. It wasn't the Book of the Dead. They say a European term that they gave it. You see, so that show you right there, right away. It shows you that automatically they're gonna use their limited understanding of other people and apply that limited understanding to this vast, complex system that they have went and dug up and have no understanding of. So when we look at E. Wallace Budge's Egyptian Book of the Dead, he's referring to them as heathens, and he has it's a bunch of question marks in there, and even I can even see where he translated the Meta Nature incorrectly. It doesn't match the words. The symbols and the words don't match up because I know how to read it from the symbols. And then when I look at the words, I'm like, okay, that's not what that says. That's not what that is. So they even got that wrong. So let alone the way that they when they trying to give an account for what they saw and what they found, they trying to now tell the story or the narrative of the people in ancient Kemet. The narrative also oftentimes are wrong. And it's because they don't want to give credit to this black nation. And you can see how they are blatantly trying to not give credit. And then where they couldn't avoid it, when they saw all this greatness, then they try to whitewash it all. Now they're trying to say, oh, these were white people. No, they were not. This is when they try to give credit to white folks. They were not white folks.
Right.
You know, at that time, at the beginning during Old Kingdom, there was no white folks around. There's no record of white folks at that time nowhere in the world.
Okay.
So
is it safe for us to use Kemet as our beginning for Black history?
It's safe, but our history still goes even beyond that because we got Cush. We got the mother of Kemet, Cush, which we know as Ethiopia, or that was the Nubian empire. So we're talking about, that was so many. We're talking about the first army. They had a all-female military of female warriors called the Kandakis. Oh my goodness. I'm talking bad. What did they call the Dora Milaje from Black Panther? Those female warriors. They're almost comparable. Almost comparable to the Kandaki from ancient Kush. So this is how bad they were. So yes, so we had a feminine presence even in the military back then. A feminine presence. So, and that's another thing. It definitely was a a very balanced society when it comes to matriarchal and patriarchal society. They knew their roles and they used it well because they saw them both, the masculine and feminine, as forces of nature that resided within each man, woman, child, and so forth. You see? So these were some innovations that again, we that was part of our Black excellence, is understanding family structure, understanding the moral code that allows us to harmonize with one another, not just get along, but harmonize, work with one another, not just be cordial, but but everything that we do in relation to one another, we are literally influencing our environment. We're influencing our world, even beyond our very space that we stand in. They understood that. You see? So I'm just saying that was that was very profound realization. They were very advanced from the area where they were, from the time that they were, the Paleolithic time that they were. But they look how well they used, stone and iron and things like that. They still had electricity. They had electricity back then. They wasn't just lighting torches to light the place up. They had electricity. You see, they took advantage of the piezoelectrical properties of crystals. How many of us can do that today? You see, although the things that these electronics, they all have crystals within them. But look who put them there. The engineers of the higher learning people. But that's something that was prevalent among even the common folk back then. You see? So, yeah. So those were some just some great simple innovations that we see from them. But this is the excellence. But the writing system was just profound, just profound at the way that they did it. And plus how, if you go to Kemet and you go and look on the Meta Nature or the hieroglyphs on the walls, those things are about 3 inches deep into that stone. And it's almost as if they knew that somebody would come along one day and try to rub it away. Well, you ain't rubbing 3 inches of stone away. Hard stone. Hard stone. So they literally built that for an eternity. That's why we can still put hands on it today. So actually what they've done, they started to put cement over those things. They started to put cement over them. So they're literally trying to erase that history. Yep, they're trying to erase it. And some of these other, let me see if I can find it. Some of these. So you notice some of the statues and everything that you see with the nose cut off and things like that, right?
Yeah.
And I remember that it was a time when they were wondering what that was about. Did the colonizer come along and cut the noses off to hide the identities? No, it's actually worse than that. Some of these noses were also cut off by black people, by the people of Kim as well. And it was the way, this is how important, it was believed that the first breath of life enters through the nose. And we make, I wouldn't say make fun of, but we make light of this one Neteru, this one deity by the name of Kintikas. He had one job, and his one job was to protect the noses. He was the protector of noses. And and because all the other deities have many jobs, but he just had one. And so, but we see all these other noses that have been chopped off, because the important thing was, since the breath of life enters into the nose, it's first taken in by the nose, then what happens if your nose is missing, they believe that interrupts your spiritual signature from being everlasting on the planet, on this world and also the next. Your spirit doesn't move on if the nose is cut off. And trust me, if they believed that at that time enough to go and chop off people's noses on their statues, it was a big deal. That was a big deal, you know. So this was them. This is the way that they put, I guess you would call like a curse or a spell on somebody else by chopping the nose off. They did it, but also other colonizers did come along and chop off some of the noses as well.
So that means that he had a very, very important job.
It was a very important job, although it was one, but that was a very important job.
So let alone that your first breath was through your nose, but doesn't spirit mean breath?
Well, yeah, the spirit. So the first time you take in spirit, and spirit is the animating force of life. Like you can't even animate, you can't even move without spirit. Spirit is responsible. Spirit is that thing between conscious thought and the actual manifestation of material. It is conscious thought communicates with spirit, and then it gives breath or life to the material that's spoken to manifest. So that's the movement of energy, in other words. All right. So absolutely, they are synonymous. So you are correct there, brother.
So I'm just saying, in its entirety, a lot of things that we use today, a lot of systems that we use today, and then the way that our cities are mapped out is because of civilization. Where again?
In Kemet.
In Kemet.
In Kemet.
Wow.
One more thing I wanna address real quick, and it was just brought to my attention. You know, shout outs to Andre. He's one of our core audience members. He's one of the core tribal members. So he just texted me and he was asking a question. He said, "What is this diagram, bruh?" And I clicked on the link real quick. So that's why my gaze was down. And when I clicked on it, it was the image of the tree of life, but it has the Kabbalah, right?
Sure.
So it's the it's the Kabbalah version, okay? And notice I said version. So he actually said, "Hey, what is this diagram?" I'm like, "It's the tree of life, right?" Can you touch on that real quick? Which one came first? Kabbalah.
They're one and the same, created by the same people. Now here's what people got to understand is that in that region, when we talk about the Nile Valley region, we talking about on both sides of the Mediterranean Sea and both sides of the Red Sea. Okay, when you go above on the other side of that of the Mediterranean, what you're gonna find is an area that's known as like Palestine, Canaan, over in that area, Canaan and Turkey. That too was full of black folks, pretty much that extended from Kemet, Kush, and so forth. Same people, right? Now, in that area, now you'll find the oldest images of the Tree of Life in Turkey, more than 7,000 years old, right? And at that time, that land was occupied by black people. And it's because the religious or the spiritual system and moral system in that area was carried out by those people, but the people who claim it today came as refugees. They were taken in because they had nowhere to be. And I'm telling you, this is history. You go read it. They came in and taken in as refugees, and then eventually they inherited that land. And then now they're claiming that system that they call the Kabbalah as their own. But no, that is a black invention. they were not called Semites back then. They were more so Hittites, but not Semites. But even before the Hittites, they didn't have a name necessarily. Not one that we found anyway. But we know the earliest writings and the first introduction of that system was the black folks, still an extension of that Nile Valley region.
Okay.
So still that.
So
But just
even
today- Go ahead.
so even with religious and spiritual systems, Kemet has a large influence even on just modern day spiritual.
Oh, absolutely,
systems,
100%. You
religious
can trace
systems.
every spiritual system you can trace back to Kemet. And I know
So
that's
it's
a bold
true.
it's a bold statement, but we're looking at the evidence. We can see it. Yes.
So it's true when they say you are spirit first before anything.
Well, let's say yes and no.
Okay, go ahead.
Yes and no. And again, like I had mentioned last week when I was talking about when we went through cosmogony and cosmology, there was still a separation between consciousness, or that awareness that was there and the spirit that was there, which was the inert energy, and also the primordial or primeval matter. So we had the material to create things, but they were separate, right? They were separate, but yet one and the same. You see, but it was that consciousness that was able to gather among itself that spirit and became Atum Ra at that time. So they gave the name to that consciousness by itself, Atum, which is why we call things atoms. The basic building blocks of all material are atoms.
Ooh.
That's what that came
Okay.
from. All right? So then it became Atum Ra when spirit and consciousness fused. And that's when they said Ra brought himself into being. So it became Ra. Ra is a product of consciousness and spirit. So that's why Ra is represented by the sun, which is the animating force of our solar system. You see? And so in that way, that's why I say yes and no. It is and it isn't. Really, like for real, it is and it isn't. But we are still that because we became one with it when we took our first manifestation as Ra, as Atum Ra, and then everything from that on, we just now are a myriad of expressions of that one fusion. Okay, and now that's according to ancient spiritual texts, not just one source, but at least 5 sources from 5 different areas or regions in that Nile Valley region that they all agreed on.
Interesting.
Okay, so I'd like us to address this this question, which I posted into the group. Right? Why do most people, especially students, find history in general to be a boring subject? And then I'm gonna post a follow-up question to this. Right? So we got a few respondents. Kate says definitely didn't find history boring, especially with the correct history teacher. It really is about the teaching style and presentation of the material. Devontae says a funny thing is his story.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Jennifer says, OMG, I was just talking about this to my mom. My daughter wants me to help her with history work, but I just like history myself. Nothing sticks to me while learning it. However, I did do a hands-on trip to Washington, D.C., and for the first time, I thought it was interesting. So I'll suggest more hands-on experiences may help. But you have people like my dad and my brother who remember and know so much about history. It does seem to be that way. Aretha says, we only dislike history because it's presented by the oppressor. We have to understand our history through the lenses of our lineage. It's never been taught to us through that lens. Teaching from a lineage perspective changes the game.
Wow.
So imagine that, right? Every public school curriculum has to have a well knowledgeable, probably well represented African history studies teacher.
Well, you know what the problem is? Is a lot of times, because I know I was not a history student. I can stand history. When I was in school, I was like I could do without that. I was more of a science and mathematics and athletic type of student. But it wasn't until I can find some correlation of history to myself, that's when it became interesting. When I found a connection to history, because in school they were teaching us history about this whole the Paul Revere and all. I don't care about none of that. I don't care about that. None of that resonated with me. Paul Revere running through and the British are coming. So what? And then in Texas we were learning about the Alamo and what's his name, Davy Crockett and all that kind of stuff. So we took a trip down to the Alamo in Austin, Texas, and all that kind of stuff. And then it was, it wasn't that, it wasn't that interesting.
Relatable?
It wasn't related because I wasn't connected to it. Like I don't care. Well, how's this going to help me in life? Knowing about this stupid stuff, it was nothing about me. But when I came across this history, and it was really in an answer to my spiritual pursuit. So when I started looking back towards a spiritual example of how I'm to be today, I found that in ancient Kemet. So then now this history. So what did we do about certain oppositions that we had? Then how did we answer that and so forth? So it was only when I found a connection in it for myself, an identification in history for myself, that it became interesting. But before then, it not only was it boring, but I found it irrelevant. It was completely irrelevant.
That seems to be a shared experience amongst a lot of people when it comes to history. Finding that relatability, finding that connection, finding how you have a relationship with this history. So even if it's Black history, right? And this is going to tie into my next question, but even with Black history, if you're not in school, right, there's not much of a motivation for you to seek it out, especially in the current economic and political and social climate we're in, right? Our lifestyles, right? There seems to be a lot of distractions away from scholarly studies. Like, all right, you learned what you learned in high school, but then beyond that, there's no push, there's no allure, no enchantment, no, hey, you should come over here. And even though we have a full month dedicated to this, right? It does bring up into question how often we study Black history. What's the frequency like? And then what is your curriculum? Because it's still academic. Right? Even though it's personalized and it's less formal, it brings up that question: how do you study Black history if you're not in a traditional classroom setting?
Yeah. Oh well, that's the only way I studied it was outside of a traditional classroom setting, and like I say, because it became a life endeavor of my own, and it was because I started to challenge the standing historical narrative. You see, so it became a pursuit of finding the truth, because history as it stands, you have to understand that's somebody else's narrative, and it's not something that we should just accept as is, because those who are in control of the narrative of history can be in control of everybody's lives today. They control how we see the world. So if we want to get the truth, we got to go beyond the narrative that they give us. And we have to pursue history on our own so that we can learn and so we can know for ourselves. So it's not until you understand that, when you get to that point and you get tired of being lied to, you have to understand that most of your issues today is because of what you don't know about history. It has a lot to do about what you don't know about history. Because when you don't see yourself in the face of greatness and excellence, you know, you have to go way back because their story ain't gonna put you in the face of excellence and greatness. You know, so you have to go way back. That's why I tell people, I admonish people, read that book, Stolen Legacy. Read it by George James. Read that book. You know, read the many others of what that I'm talking about. Look up any type of information about ancient Kemet, and also in ancient Sumer and so forth. You'll see the history of people who look like you. Even in India, the Dravidians. You ever notice how the Indians from West India and also in Ethiopians, you notice how they look the same? They kind of favor each other. Indians and Ethiopians kind of favor each other. Well, it's because they're from the same lineage. So the Indians that actually ended up in India from Ethiopia, they're called the Dravidians.
Yep.
And they are the ones that are very dark skinned over there. And guess what? They're also being subjugated. They're being subjugated over there by the other Indians who are lighter skinned. So this is what I'm saying. You have to understand that everything seems to be working against us, especially in this global colonized system. Okay, so so I think that's important, is to find your face in history. It's there. Go and find your face in history.
Okay. I think this one is our last question that I posted. I had another one. Let's see. Hold on. Let me pull this up. All right. So this one only got 3 votes, but many African Americans feel that the teaching of Black history in public schools is being threatened. Additionally, African Americans have typically felt that Black history isn't taught adequately in public schools. There tends to be a distrust against non-Black teachers to teach Black history. Given these premises, do you teach Black history at home? You know, this is the question I have for the audience. Please share your rationale if time permits, and share some of your educational resources and strategies. I added that bit in there because, again, if we answer this question honestly, right? Given our current schedules, our busy lifestyles and such, you know, your children aren't receiving Black history education in the public schools. So therefore, the brunt of the responsibility is on you to do it at home, right? Given that interest, right? Given that motivation. So if you're a Black parent with 2-3 kids, even if you're a single parent at that, how do you make the time, and what resources do you use to teach Black history to your kids? Do you use videos? Do you take them on field trips? Like, you actually have to be, in a sense, a Black history teacher.
Yeah,
right?
You do, but you have to also be careful of the sources, because the sources that are easily attained probably have the most falsehoods in them. So if you're going to teach, number one, being that it hasn't been too long, just back in the maybe the late 40s and then 50s and stuff like that, that our history started being corrected by scholars like Sheikh Anta Diop, Theophilo Banga, John Henry Clark, and Dr. Ben, and so forth, right? And they have books, and so their books are not that old. But remember, first you're going to start with this higher learning, and these, and it's not really palatable to children yet. So it's evolving into a point to where it's so understood that it can be articulated to a child. So right now, the best thing to do is to engage your children in the work of these authors. At least have your children hanging around you. They'll be picking up on it. You do have some cartoons out there that are now depicting, Black children in their ancient setting. And so that's the best thing to do, because the truth is, right now they're fighting. There's this thing called critical race theory, as you know, that's going on in school. They're trying to ban literally the truth about racism, and the origins of racism and things like that. They don't want to teach that in school. And why is that? Because this country doesn't want to face its own inequities. It doesn't want to face that. Because then it will that would definitely open up the discussion, and also a moving forward, because the discussion is already there, but a moving forward on reparations. They would have to take a plea and say, we're guilty. We are guilty, and we do owe y'all this, but they're not ready to do that. So they're pushing this, because once that information comes out, and once kids start to understand that this is what happened, and this is what's owed to you, we're not even out of that post-slavery era. We're still in that post-slavery era. What I'm saying is, we haven't gotten over the inequalities brought on by slavery, and at the end during Reconstruction and the civil rights, and we're still facing a great degree of that same inequality. So we're not even out of that era yet. You see, so they don't want to deal with that, and which I personally think that's the reason why they're pushing AI, so that that's another way that they can draw another line to cut black folks out. Because if we look at who's at the forefront of AI right now, there's no black folks dealing with that technology at this time. We're not heading that technology. We're not even at the table on that technology. And guess what? That's just going to be next week. That's how close this is. And then once they start to shut everything down and start divvying out labor only to AI, robots and stuff like that, and only the people who are running those type of companies, that's going to be your haves. So the gap between the have and have-nots is going to grow exponentially. That's what people got to understand. So until, and it's because we are letting them control the narrative. They are deciding what's valuable. As we had talk of before, earlier this week, John, about when I talked about the Mona Lisa. Why are they the one who put value on the Mona Lisa? The Mona Lisa ain't that valuable. You see, that was their stuff they made through their Renaissance, but it brought no value to the world. But all those white folks decided to make the Mona Lisa a valuable thing for some reason, and it added nothing to the advancement of mankind. So why is it so valuable? You see, why is it this world wonder? You mean to tell me that the Mona Lisa compares to the pyramid? Really? No, it doesn't. But that's their narrative, and everybody just went along with it. You see? So this is what I'm saying is that this the best thing they can do is always establishing a new narrative. They always establish a new narrative. It can come in the form of a new law, which can easily somehow be implemented right away. We know that they could have been and done something about the brutality against black folks, because we saw them do it instantly with Asians. When brutality started happening against Asians, they instantly put a law in place protecting Asians. But through years and years and decades of abuse, black people have not had any kind of sanctions put on their against their brutality or abuse at all. We haven't had that happen. So we know they're capable of doing it. They just don't want to. I'm just saying, think about why that is. Go back and look at history, and history will tell you why that is. There's something great about you. There's nothing wrong with you. There's something great about you. And is that great? And all we'll do is not that we'll start to dominate people and take over the world. We'll just bring balance back to the world. Because that's who we are. Bringing balance back to the world. You see, because we are divine beings. We're divine beings, period.
So I want to make a couple of recommendations to the parents out there who's struggling to find some educational supports in teaching Black history to their children. So what I do at my house, or at least what I've started doing, is I implement these Black history cards. Okay. Let me see if I can. Let me get that.
Yeah, put them close in your body. Yeah, in front of your body. There you go.
Let's try this. Okay, here we go. Yeah. All right. Boom.
Beautiful.
Is it too much light? Is it too much light?
No, I can see it.
Too much
It's nice.
too much
Right
gleam?
there.
All
That's
right.
perfect.
Yeah. There we go. There we go. There we go. Okay. So I'm gonna post up the website right here. Urban Intellectuals, and I just misspelled that. My bad, y'all. Urbanintellectuals.com. I'm gonna correct that in a moment. Um, but yeah, so what I have my kids do is one of them, well, I got three. So I tell them just pick a card, pick a few, right? And on the way to school, it takes us about maybe 10 minutes to get there, 7 to 10 minutes to get there. So in that time, they're going to read one of their cards. So let's just say, for example, and I'm gonna just list off a few. This one is volume 4. This is pre 1492. Pre 1492 is a very significant date.
Yes.
Right? We're talking about colonialism, right?
Mhm.
So I like this deck compared to this one, which is volume 1. And this one is pretty much after 1492.
Mm-hmm.
So we got Queen Candace of Kush, Mansa Musa, Ilaria of Nubia, the Dogons.
So what you said, Candice, is pronounced Kandaki. That's who I was talking
Oh,
about.
oh yeah, Kandaki. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So you're gonna get a lot of ink. Well, I don't want to say, yeah, we'll say Greek. We'll say Greek. So you're gonna get some of those translation in these cards, just to let you guys know. But this is black owned. This is black owned.
There you go.
You got Queen Nefertiti, Ramses the Third. You got Ramses the Great, earliest known surgery. What? And then so like the facts are on the back of this, right? The facts are on the back of this. And so when the kids are reading, right? I just want them familiar. I don't expect them, like I'm not quizzing right now. I just want them to get familiar. I'll start quizzing a little bit further down, but right now I just want them aware. You guys see how thick this is? This is a very thick stack. Okay. So this is just a quick remedy, right? So let's just say, for example, this one is earliest known surgery, right? And it gives the date at the bottom. Conducted in Egypt about 2300 BCE. There were 3 levels of injuries in ancient Egypt. They were treatable, contestable, and untreatable. During this time, ancient Egyptian surgeons were able to perform brain surgery successfully.
Mm-hmm.
Crazy. Let's see. The tomb of Kuar, who was a doctor during the 6th dynasty, held the earliest known surgical tools. Some surgical tools used were knives, pincers, scales, spoons, drills, saws, and a vase with burning incense. Artificial toes and eyeballs were often used for decorative purposes. What?
My people.
What? We got the Phoenicians, Memnon. What else?
In Phoenicia, that's the area I was talking about, referring to near Canaan, near where Canaan, Turkey. That's where the Kabbalah came from.
The Maasai, Kingdom of Congo, Songhai Empire. We haven't even gone over in what is that, northwest Africa and all. Ooh, man, the Carthaginians. Yeah. So that means that we should also ancient Mesopotamia. Hannibal. Oh man, come on. Hannibal of Carthage.
Yes.
Oh,
come on now.
this is the one, man. This is the one. Hannibal, my gosh, man. Defeated the Romans. They had that rivalry, man. See, this is a good story.
Mm-hmm.
Hannibal. Oh man, I could always remember Hannibal. Just like that name.
Yeah. Well, it's one of my teachers' name out of New York. His name is Hannibal.
Woo. Yeah. So the Moors.
Yes.
The Zodiac from the Temple of Dendera. Oh my gosh. Rosetta Stone. Blacks in Ancient Greece. Yo, these cards are dope, y'all. If you are a parent and you are struggling with introducing Black history to your children and you want to, this is it. All right. So I'm doing this throughout the rest of Black History Month, but also, it doesn't have to be just, and there's different ways that you can use this. When I first got these cards and I were introducing them to my son, We did it for candy because he liked candy, and I was very strict on candy in the house.
Mhm.
So we would play for what was it? I think it was well, it doesn't matter. But so for everyone that he got right, he got a piece of candy, right? Jolly Ranchers, that's what it was.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, I was that strict, but it made it more satisfying because for him, it's like, all right, he got something. He's motivated to learn the facts, right? And I don't expect him to remember it all. I just want him to be familiar because those seeds being planted, and that's really what it's all about. You plant the seeds, let the children do what they will after that, right? When you plant those seeds, if you do it right, they're gonna remember and they're gonna further their research, right? So it's just like general education. You're just introducing the concepts, but from there, once you have the knowledge, it's your responsibility, right? So that's all we're really trying to do. And then, of course, I use a lot of Netflix documentaries, and there's plenty on there. And then they make it so easy on Netflix. They have a Black History edition. They have a Black History collection. So all you gotta do is just select that and go from there. Just pick one and rock on, right?
And just start with that. But I would say still do your research. Let that be a source of that guides you, because again, you're still looking at somebody else's narrative.
Of course. But this is just the quick remedy because again, it's time consuming. Like we're talking about scholarship here. So you really got to devote time. And I understand we're in a busy lifestyle. So this is like an easy attempt until you can work your way up to saying, you know what, I'm going to dedicate 1 hour of my week towards researching Black history. So we got these Black history cards right here. I'm going to put up the website one more time. Right. Boom, 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 boom. And they got more. They're up there.
Urban Intellectual. You said so. You corrected the spelling.
Yeah, I corrected it.
Okay. Perfect. UrbanIntellectuals.com. Perfect. I'll be getting my copies.
It's nice. All right, so we are 1 hour and 42 minutes into our segment for tonight. You guys have any additional questions, comments? Want to go ahead and wind it down?
I just want to just summarize. I wanted to hit on the art, the excellence in art, and also the excellence in architecture that we left, and also carrying on. So, like I say, the rise and fall, right? So there is a period where we were not in that because we were being subjugated around the world, and then eventually, even when we finally got here, then we got a whole, just in our recent history, we got a lot of like Madam C.J. Walker, inventor of that straightening comb, and Eli, what's his name, Banneker, who.
Oh yeah.
We got peanut butter and
Benjamin Banneker.
Yeah. So we got so many inventions, the street light, traffic light, and things. A lot of the stuff that we use
Oil
that
pan.
we get by with. So
Escalator, the elevator.
Gas mask.
Everything. Gas mask. So a lot of the things that we do. In fact, I challenge anybody, find out what do you use in your daily practice just to get along with the day, and see how much of it is Black, and see if you can go. Let's see how many days you can go without Black inventions in your life.
Including your music.
So I'm just saying. So anyway, so that's what I mean. That's the Black excellence. We still here and we still coming back. I guess we really are baby kids, huh? We no doubt we multiply.
This is the second time. What is that? In like 4 days that I've heard a Bebe's Kids reference. Oh my God. I think that's calling me to go watch that.
You probably should go watch that.
Yeah, I mean, we watched Bernie Mac instead. We've been watching Bernie Mac instead. Yeah. Oh man, he's a cultural gem, man. He is.
Bernie Mac, yes.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Dang. Funny dude.
Yeah, he says what. He expresses the frustration of parenting. He's that relic of black parenting, you know?
Mm-hmm.
It's weird. It's like yeah, you love him, but then you're like, dang, we're kind of messed up, aren't we?
Exactly.
Yeah, man. Yeah. Did you have any more that you want to share with the audience, Saba?
Just because of time, I did have a couple of pictures I wanted to show. I wanted to get into just how precise how precise they were with positioning things, how they position things with the phi ratio, the golden ratio, and things like that, and what all that means, and exactly how they track the stars with these monuments. From the pyramids to Easter Island to Stonehenge and so forth. So, but anyway, just know that those are also black innovations. That's part of black excellence as well. All the
It
stuff
is.
that we marvel at. So, but that's it. But I just wanted to hit that just to make sure we got that. But don't take what I say. Go and research everything I say. And then if you find me out of order somewhere, come back and let me know so I can straighten myself out. That's how we do it.
Mm. I have a couple of things I want to say. I want to say
All
thank
right.
you. How y'all doing?
Hey, God level.
Thank you all for doing this show tonight. I'm sorry I was not able to join you all. It's been a long week. Management is, oof. I was on call this week, so it was a 7-day stretch for me. But I've been able to listen to you all tonight, and y'all hit on some very good things. To my people out there that's listening, I will say this. It is time for us to stop fighting for a seat at their table and realize we can create our own. I love y'all.
All right. You heard it. We love you too.
Should I
Thank
go
you for.
ahead and
Do your thing, baby. It's an
share
echo
this?
too. I noticed that.
Yeah. Wait, do I have one too?
Yeah.
Well, it's only coming from her mic. I think it's
It's
feedback looping through your mic there, God level.
okay. Well, I'm gonna go ahead and hit mute.
All right. So I said black excellence like Nubians, Numidians, Ethiopians, Dravidians born in the motherland. Alkebulon, we used to call it. Before the Romans conquered, who fought them? Hannibal of Carthage. Making our mamas proud. Black man, black excellence means to be a father to your child. Stop acting wild and raise these geniuses out the hood. We should hear another Coltrane escape from pushing keys in his. Music is the soul of the man. If you believe in this, trap songs will never make you free within. You see, I got a black complex, not a prison complex I'm trying to blow up, but I ain't talking bomb threats yet. Rebel with the cause. I'm thinking Malik Shabazz trading Newports for a passport in Africa. We're still black brothers getting wasted. Thinking so slow they don't know what a race is. Am I a racist for writing black history as they try to erase his? Remember when those planes hit, but forget about those slave ships. If you're colorblind, then your vision is tainted. I love my coffee-colored skin. Feeling myself so much, it wakes me up in the mornings, born again, like the black crisis. But then again, police brutality is still a black crisis. Wrestling with religion, trying to beat the system, trying to stand our ground, hoping that the streets will listen. This is black excellence. But is it all about mind control? Some of us searching for the new J's, but can't find our soul. It's the third eye closed, whose eyewitness Jedi mind tricks disguise pimping. The Skywalker is not tripping. Nah, I'm boxing with the gods. Even the greatest are battling the odds, shining like a champion, bright like a Robin sun, Patterson, Johnson, or a Tyson. Y'all feel me? So who's the greatest? Ali, Holyfield, Frazier were my favorites because they were fighting for their lives way before R. Kelly believed he could fly, and I remain to be a black Jedi / Tuskegee Airman. Not with the Air Force, for the force of this air, man. Black royalties, heaven sent, reeks of intelligence. If money is your language, your speech is irrelevant because this is Black excellence. My living is the equivalent to Mansa Musa on a pilgrimage. I got heaven is my Mecca. My body is a pyramid where the spirit lives, and my penmanship is hieroglyphics mixed with Harlem Renaissance. Translating Marcus Garvey and my Black thoughts to illuminate my light years in these dark ages. In the book of life where a page is long as a day is. We used to read the stars. They were sacred. But then we read scriptures and they became pagan. When we became Christians, Muslims, and Rastas, our knowledge was no longer astrologic. The sun god was acknowledged by Akhenaten, the inventor of monotheism. Have y'all forgotten our Black scholarship, 106 historically Black universities and colleges? This is Black excellence. And that's a marvel, like T'Challa. Black Panther Revolution, it was a shock to the nation. A new generation of Zulus, Osei Tutus, who knew? Hope that you do. Take it in for consideration that Black supremacy is not Black liberation. And God bless the souls of Black youth. Black seeds can't grow if they're severed from their Black roots, so teach them Black excellence. But what's a king without a queen? Nefertiti, Nefertari, Amina, Sheba, my Coretta's penning letters, Maya Angelos that flow at the speed of love to bring a little joy to my eyes. Tears of the sun, my Black women. My Black women. You are Black excellence. Blessed.
Blessed. All right. Believe it.
Believe it.
I say.
John, you got me.
Oh yeah. I'm about to close this out right here. Thank you everyone for joining us tonight. Come by next week when Saba, we will be talking about
What is next week? I can't remember the title.
okay, well, just stay tuned in, y'all. Stay plugged. We're still keeping it Black. We're still keeping it melanated. We're still keeping it African. We're still keeping it all beautiful. One love, one light to you all. Peace.
Peace.